Okay, welcome back. Today we are going to start our conversation about the sociological imagination. The sociological imagination was coined by C. Wright Mills. Again, get out those flashcards. It is the ability to see connections between our personal experiences and the larger forces of history. So this enables us to grasp history and biography and the relations between the two within society. So let's take a second to talk about that. So the sociological imagination is the ability to see the connections between our personal experience and the larger forces of history. So this is where we take our own experiences and our own understanding and try to see how other people experience this and see if there's any patterns or connections, as well as how is there connections between our own experiences and our frameworks, as well as within the context of history. So right now, it is totally okay for ladies to wear pants. Previously, within the context of history, has it always been that way? The answer is no. But what we can do is we can start to look at how that changed. So what are some historical and sociological contexts that help us understand these different frameworks? Cool? So it also enables us to grasp history and biography in relations between the two within society. So your own personal story is incredibly important, but so are all of the personal experiences and your personal stories and everyone else's personal stories. But we need to look at how does this connect within the idea of social institutions from last lecture into our understanding of how does this relate to society? How do we understand that? In our next two lectures, we're going to talk about cultural scripts and the linguistic landscape, and that I think will help us understand this a little bit better. So let's think about this idea of getting that piece of paper. What does that mean? Really, it means graduating, right? Graduating from college. This is why we're all here. What is the role of graduating from college? So when we graduate from college, it is supposed to train us for our careers. It is supposed to help us get more pay. It is supposed to help us get a career that we enjoy. There's a lot of things happening within education, but in reality, does it mean that we are fully prepared for our education or our career or our jobs? Does it mean that we will automatically get a job that is within our field that pays us what we want to be paid? Potentially no. So really it's this idea that getting that piece of paper, it is a sociological construction that exists because we believe in it, as well as it exists because we as a society believe in it and it means something. It creates this idea behind this notion of a degree. Does that make sense? So if we think about getting that piece of paper, what does it really mean? Does it mean that everyone's equally prepared? Does that mean that you will be guaranteed or ready for a job? Does it mean that you are smarter than someone who doesn't have a degree? Does it mean that you are more prepared than someone that has a degree? Or what is the status or value that we as a society place on it? Cool? All right. So this is an activity that we're going to do in class, but I want you to start thinking about it now. This idea of the sociological lens. It's very much connected with the sociological imagination in making connections and patterns between your own experiences and sociological patterns in different contexts of religion, of history, of economic status. So we're going to put our own lenses on. We're going to draw our glasses and think about our different positionalities. We're going to talk about positionalities in class. I want you to watch this video before you come to class. And so that way we are able to have a conversation all on the same page. Okay, so sociology and popular wisdom. So why is it that we think that research supports what we already know? So we have this common sense idea that we think that we know something and we're going to go out there and find research that supports it. Sometimes that happens, but more often than not, what happens is that we go out to answer a question. Whether we find evidence that supports it or not, it answers this question. As scientists, it's important to not have a biased agenda when looking for research. Cool? All right. So how does this connect with our linguistic landscape? We haven't talked about that yet. That's in our next video, but I want you to be really conscious about how this is going to start to connect to future ideas. So keep this idea in mind of the sociological imagination and your sociological lens. So part of the discussion for this particular segment is I want you to think of 5 examples of common sense ideas about our society. We're not going to break up into groups. What we're going to think about is our own obvious concept, and then we're going to explain it, right? So this is where you're going to be able to practice using sociological language and using some of the key terms from this chapter. So within the discussion, I really want to see you be able to construct sociological conversations in regards to social ideas, right? So look up in the book 5 examples of common sense idea, and then I want you to think of your own common sense or obvious concept, and then I want you to break it down or start to question it, a lot like what we did in our last video. So then we're going to think about, how does the argument of nature versus nurture play into this? So nature versus nurture is an outdated concept that either it has to be biological or passed down through your genetics or physiological attributes, or it is your society that socializes you into understanding or thinking about this. Really, it's on the spectrum that it's going to be a combination of both of these things and a lot of other things. How does my biological and physiological construction set me up to understand this idea? And then how does society tell me to understand it? So I want you to make sure to answer that question within the discussion. All right, let's see what's on next. So when popular ideas don't match up. So think back to the text and let's explore some examples of when the research did not support common sense ideas. So explore your text, and I want you to think about and explore one of the examples that our text gives us of how popular ideas don't match up to the research. Cool? So explore how these ideas are supported or not through the research presented in the book. Think back to your own common sense idea, and then I want you to answer, what did you find about your research? What did you find about this popular idea? How do they match up? How do they not match up? Did you think that maybe you believed some of these popular ideas or common sense ideas and then you were surprised that it didn't pan out the way that you thought it would? Okay, so I want you to take time within this video and within the next day or two to figure this out. Cool? Answer it within the discussion board. Make sure that you are on D2L at least 3 times a week and that you are having conversations with other students. All right, I'll see you next time.